Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Writers Chat, the place where we talk about all things writing for writers and by writers. We're really excited that you're here with us either live or watching the replay, and it's just always fun to get together every Tuesday at 11 o'clock Eastern. Got to say Eastern time. Anyway, I'm Jean Wise. I'm one of the co-hosts, and I'll introduce my co-hosts with us. We've got Johnny Alexander.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah. And Bethany Jett. Wave, Bethany. On that. And we've invited two of our cohorts, Tina and April, to join us and add into our discussion today. I'm kind of excited about this. You know, we're going to start looking at the upcoming holidays today. And, you know, that is, to quote somebody who's kind of famous in the field of writing, it's the best of times and it's the worst of times when it comes to holidays, don't you think? And both for taking care of ourselves and for trying to figure out the whole writing process. How do you write with so much other stuff going on? So we're going to try to tackle both topics today. And April and Tina have volunteered to come in and help us in a discussion of some self-care tips, and then we'll talk about the writing tips. So if you're joining us or joining us late, and I don't know how this works in the replay, I don't think it'll probably work on the replay. You might see a poll there. We're going to take a poll about if you're going to keep your writing routine up during the holidays, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So if you come in a little bit later, I hope you still vote. So anyway, I kind of asked my co-hosts Bethany and Johnny to maybe share a tip or two on self-care during the holidays. So maybe I'll start with them to kind of get the ball rolling. I don't know either one of you want to start first?
I'll say something first.
Okay, Johnny, I'll send it to you.
I've been traveling, and so things have been a little bit crazy and hectic, and I'm not being able to really focus on this, but I would say the one thing to do is to remember what you really want to get out of the holidays. And I think no matter what your writing goals are or anything like that, it's really about family and friends. And for once during the year, they sort of need to take top priority. So I think it's really important to make sure you're making memories with people, even if it means staying up later or maybe downsizing those writing goals a little bit. Mm-hmm. Just not to get so crazy hectic that you forget what it's really all about and what you're going to remember 3 years or 5 years from now about this holiday season. It's not going to be, I wrote all those words or I did this or that. It's going to be, we went caroling or we made cookies or whatever.
Make the memories and don't forget yourself on that. Right. Bethany, do you got a self-care tip?
Yeah, mine's like on the other end of the spectrum, so now I don't want to say it.
Say it. This is discussion.
All right.
This is so generational, I think,
I was going to say, give yourself a break, and you don't have to do all of the activities that everyone plans for you, because if you are the daughter or daughter-in-law, sometimes people want to schedule your whole holiday, and then you're stressed because you have to go do all these things. So that was one of my tips for kids, is suggest an activity you don't want to go to, and then say, I got to work. I got to write. Can't go. Sorry. But you don't care because you didn't want to go anyway.
That's true.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, and that's that balance, isn't it? I think that's what it's hard.
I love that. I actually love that we came at it from two different points of view, because I know Bethany's really all about memories too, because I've said to all my kids and they are like that. But she's also right. You have to draw the line on how many activities you're going to, especially when you have the kids, how many activities you're going to do, because you don't want them to be all tired and grumpy and, worn out.
Well, this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll let you guys jump in, but they're already threatening to do these 5K fun runs at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I don't want to go. We'll see.
Okay, Tina and April, we have a Fighting Warriors. The way I see the screen, I know everybody sees the screen a little bit different. I have Johnny on one side and Bethany on the other, so I kind of feel like I'm in between the two, arguing about how to handle the holidays. But when it comes to self-care, taking care of ourselves during this absolute crazy time, one of you two would maybe come in with the idea about how do we balance this? How do we figure this out? You got some tips or something you could share with us? I don't care who starts.
Okay, well, I'll I'll jump in there. So balance is, I was thinking about balance this morning and praying over everything. And if you think of those old-fashioned scales,
Mm-hmm.
that, I have the pole and the connector and both sides, but, you never hardly ever see it balanced. So I wanted to give that reality check that not really a balance. So
it's always a process is kind of what you're saying.
It's always a process. And I think that if you think of a pendulum as well, that it's going to swing side to side, exactly. It's going to swing, or it's going to, the scale will swing as well. So that was my thought on balance. But to manage it, there are lots of different things. And I was thinking that Tina and I should have probably have talked beforehand. Because we might be saying the same.
That's all right.
The same stuff. I don't know, but for me to manage the stress during the holidays is to make a plan of action. Definitely a plan of action, and to think about every day as a new day. So if you don't do it right one day, you're gonna get up the next day and go forward and start again. That's with God's love as well. We have new every day, as fresh as it's new every morning. Love, every morning new. It's just brand new. And so you need to be kind to yourself as well. And I think with journaling, I'm a big journaler, that I like to journal the day before, what happened the day before. And I think I'm going to add to that, how did I take care of myself the day before? So I did not give myself any attention, that I will do so in the upcoming day that I'm starting. So that to me is where I feel with balance, that we have to refill our well, to look at balance as a process, and that, we need to nurture our focus on writing. And I liked what Johnny said, that you've got to, maybe you need to downsize your writing, especially if you have family. But I also want to throw in there too, with the family stuff, if you spend time with those kids first off, then they're more likely to be satisfied and give you.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that, whether it's cookies, baking the cookies, or shopping, or whatever traditions you have. I like to take my kids out and let them pick out an ornament for the year that represents what they did all year long, so that when they leave the house when they're 20 some odd years old, they'll have a set of ornaments for their tree. So you want to think of your legacy as well as what you do through the holidays, and don't just explain your plan to them too, that we're going to do this, but then mom needs this. Mom needs, I'll check on you. I write for 40 minutes. I'll check on you when I'm done and see if you have any needs. Unless you're bleeding or you're hitting one, you don't need to interrupt me.
But you know what, April, I think we have a tendency, and maybe more so as women, not to always state our need, that, hey, I've got to take an hour here and write. And this is what, do you want me to write at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock? Get them part of that decision, and I think that is a great point.
And there's always, with older kids, there's play dates. You can say, take my kid 4 hours and I'll take yours the last 4 hours, that type of thing. Don't rule out play dates where you can at least get focused writing in. And when I'm not beyond bribes with kids.
I love it.
That's great.
So we have a Zoo membership, and so I was always, like, my kids are 15 and 19 now, but I was always, okay, you do XYZ, let mom do this, then we'll head to the zoo at noon, and we'll stop and get a picnic on the way or whatever. So I'm always for bribes.
It also sounds like you're kind of saying you could write, but be willing to be flexible with your schedule, especially during the holidays. Kind of, you could keep your writing routine, but it may not look exactly what you do the other 10 months of the year. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying too. And one of my tips I was looking at too for writers in general, and kids are this way too, but their pet is not vocal. They have to show you in different ways. So my cat, when I was just scrounging to go get ready, he hopped up in here and started doing the kitty biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
That just reminded me, because whenever he does that, I'm like, oh, this is so rare. I want to go and hear him purr and get close to him. And dogs are the same way. I can't be in bed on my phone. My dog is pulling at me.
Yeah.
So think of your kids. They need time as well. They need you to stop and be a part and enjoy being with them as well. So.
I don't know, Tina, do you want to pop in and add something or comment on something that she said?
I think a lot of the stuff that she said is that's really good stuff, really great tips, especially for moms, because we think our role as moms is to make our kids do everything for our kids. It's really to help them become independent, self-functioning individuals when they grow up. So the more that we can learn to delegate, even if they don't do it perfect, they're not going to do it the way you do it, but they need to start learning how to do those things on their own anyway. Mm-hmm. And so don't try to do everything for them. Don't try to do everything perfect. And I think from what Johnny and Bethany said, they're both right. You have to set priorities. You have to know what's most important to you. And we used to do a visual analogy of lemonade ingredients. You have like a big pitcher, and you put your big pieces in first. You take these big lemons and you stick them in there first. And then you pour in, like, say, the sugar. And then you can pour in the water. If you do it in any other order, it's not going to fit. So the big pieces are the pieces only you can do. Only you can take care of yourself, your health. You can only be the parent to your child for some things. There are some things that only you can do for them. There are some pieces for your writing if it needs to be done now in this time. And sometimes we load on more pieces than we need to for what we need to do now in our writing. So you have to decide what that is for you and your career. But things that you can do, only you can do, go in as the big pieces. And really, we can't forget our relationship with God, and our spiritual anchor needs to be that very first piece we put in. If we do that the first thing in the day, if we put God first, everything else falls in place. It's amazing how putting Him first makes more time in our day somehow. It doesn't seem like it would, but it makes more time. And it fills us spiritually so that we're able to write what He wants us to write when we have time to write. He multiplies those spaces of time. And I think we need to be careful, too, not to fill up our whole picture. Because then those little unexpected things happen. And they will always happen, and you have no room for those things. So don't fill your life to the margin, because you will have it overflowing before you know it. Plus, God is in those margin spaces. We need to have some moments for self-care, for just quiet reflection in order to be healthy, because your brain gets overloaded. You can't just function on all the time. So knowing your priorities and knowing what can be delegated. That's the other thing. What can somebody else do? Even if they don't do it the way I do it. Right. You have to be willing to let go of some control.
Those are great points. And that was one thing, the tip I was going to share, and it's kind of the umbrella of both what you said, is that this is the perfect time, the end of October, to start pre-planning how you're going to get your mindset right, or get your schedule right, or get your really what you want to do for November and December, because it only gets busier and more demands on our time. And like you said, God first and our own self-care, we've got to get that down, and how are you going to do it? A little creative planning ahead can make a big difference.
Yes.
Right now.
I always buy gifts first, way ahead of Christmas. I'll bake way ahead of Christmas. Like, the more you can do ahead of time, so that you can just sit back and enjoy the things that Christmas is about, spending time with family. Like, pick out those things that make Christmas meaningful to you, that make Thanksgiving meaningful to you, and do those things. But plan the other stuff, the little details ahead of time. And I love what Bethany said about saying no to parties and events and things. You don't have to do all of those. You really don't. It's okay. So.
And a number of years ago, we looked at Thanksgiving, and, I would always do Thanksgiving this way. And my kids would finally started listening to my kids who are adults now, and they were saying, Mom, we don't need all this. And I asked them, I said, well, what is the important things? What do you like to remember about? And they named certain key things. So we're sure those are in there, but it was a much smaller and much manageable thing to do. You know, we get in our mind, we have to have the picture perfect Thanksgiving meal, or the tree has to be decorative, just like you would put in Better Homes and Gardens or something. And it's not the
boundaries. Boundaries is a huge thing. You need to know what it's okay to say no to and be willing to say no nicely, but mean it. And with family, that's important too, because sometimes family thinks you have to do this my way. You have to do this my way. And you can very sweetly say, if you're in the South, you can say, bless your heart.
Yes.
No, I don't really, but I love you. I love you, but I'm not going to be able to do it that way this year.
Good for
Lacey Buchanan she shortens it to bless.
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 I like to say bless it.
Bless it. We're gonna be. How nice. We're gonna.
But you know, we have Pinterest to thank and HGTV to thank all that craziness. You know, and if we can just, I love going the extra mile for my family. You know, we have this rule in my family that we don't give presents to the adults except for mom and dad on both sides of the family. Yet at that very last minute, I'm scrounging. Oh, I can make something. I can do something very small. Let me do something very small. And then, you know, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm going to try and really, I can start that now if there's some individual little thing I want to make. But my body will tell me, and that's one thing to listen to your body too. It'll tell me that through a headache or through mind just like going too fast is that I just need some sleep. So that as well, that we can press on and, oh, we got to do this. And it'll be great if I just show them that I love them and I make this banana nut bread and I'm going to go buy this and I'm going to wrap it up in this cute paper. And, oh, there's this tag on Pinterest that I can make a sign that says, you know, banana something just for you. And, you know, you just slow down, and they're going to love you regardless if you make them banana nut bread. So,
no, that sounds good. Any tips on keeping up some good nutrition over the holidays? Either one of you or both pop in on that?
I love Sherilyn's comment about drinking lots of water. That's one thing that we forget. We get all these sugary, sweet pumpkin spice latte time stuff. I mean, I love my pumpkin spice latte. Any kind of latte, you know. But we have to be careful to drink lots of water and stay hydrated. And I also love what April said. Really good tip about getting plenty of rest. As writers, if I hear one or more of my writer friends say, I'll sleep when I'm dead, I probably won't smack them. But, you know, if you do that, that's kind of what a famous writer, Jack London, said. He said something along those lines, and then he died. So please do not say that. Please. Please don't wait till you're dead, till it kills you to get adequate sleep. Drink lots of water. Make sure you're eating properly, not just sugar. And I think when we're stressed as writers, or even as moms trying to get everything done, we tend to eat lots of sugar, lots of starch, lots of salt.
Right.
Because we're craving that to replace the serotonin that stress eats. Stress eats the serotonin out of your brain. And so in order to replace that serotonin, we want to eat those quick fix things. And that's why you'll see like places that are in sales, they'll have all these awful snacks in the snack machine to replenish that and deal with the stress. But it makes you spike and crash. And
they're more accessible during the holidays.
Yeah.
Because of the people that bake the pretty banana bread, I'm going to pick on April, and deliver it to your neighbors, or you have the cookies or the candy.
Yeah.
So, you know, one thing in my research, I looked at an article in Writer's Digest about self-care for writers. And this strikes me that self-care will actually buy you time. So if you think about it, you have a long day, you have a headache, you sit down at the computer, and it takes you 3 hours to write 1,000 words that are probably not very good. So if you were to come home, close your eyes for 5 to 10 minutes, drink some water, do some stretching, do some meditation for 30 to 60 minutes. Then you sit down at the computer and you write 1,000 words in an hour instead of the 3. So that to me spoke volumes. You just bought back yourself 60 to 90 minutes of time.
Wow.
If you listen to your head, oh, I have a headache, or maybe it's a stress in your back or your knee or whatever it is, take that time, that little bit of 30 minutes, then that to me spoke volumes, that you saved yourself time.
Wow, that is a wonderful tip. And I think that's inspirational, I think, to go. Is it the same thing true? You mentioned stretching. I don't know about, if I bring up the horrible word of exercise during the holidays. What do you think?
Well, that's my business. I have to get paid. I wouldn't have a job. I teach 2 classes on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, 3 on Thursday, and 2 on Friday.
Wow.
Saturday and Sunday, I barely get maybe 5,000 steps on my Fitbit. But all the other days I get, I'm like, Fitbit needs to have that option of you made up for it on Tuesday, so give me some from Tuesday to Saturday numbers. But anyway, so yes, exercising. And what spoke to me too, when I teach chair yoga for seniors, and we'll talk about doing yoga 10 minutes and then we'll run on to the next thing. Well, not everybody wants to get on the floor. Not everybody wants to take their shoes off. Not everybody wants to listen to music because it puts them to sleep or whatever. You can use a chair to stretch with. You don't have to get on the floor. There's stretches with your shoulders because, we have to think of overuse of our different areas. When we write, when we have our hands, we have the forearms, we have our necks, we have our shoulders. We have our backs. There was one other thing I forgot. I was saying about our body.
What about our wrists? From typing on the keyboard.
Yes, you have all the things that can do carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
So think of the runner, the long distance runner. He stretches before and after, because if not, all the muscles he overused are going to be in knots. So think of the vocalist. They're going to take care of their voice, their instrument. Yeah. We have to take care of our instruments. And don't forget about your eyes is the one I was trying to remember, because you can have that eye strain at the computer. Absolutely. So don't forget about your eye. And even if we're reading some research, I like to take my contacts out and then I put the paper right there in front of my eye, and it can strain. That's strain. And here, with my contacts on, I have to use these. So.
Good point. Bethany, do you want to talk a little bit about that TED Talk that you put in the thing about the TED Talk on rest?
Yeah, the TED Talk was amazing. And I'm pretty sure this is the right one. I did a Google search. But he was talking about the only time that your brain flushes itself out or cleans itself, basically, is when you sleep. And I never really thought about the brain doing that. But he was showing MRI pictures of people when they sleep. And you can literally see the brain doing this transformation kind of thing. And I was like, it was really cool. And that was when everyone's sleep, whatever. But that was the linchpin. I was like, all right, so if I want to do super good tomorrow, we all have these things we want to do and we want to write. How do you do that if you have all the gunk in your brain? You have to flush it out. So when I don't want to go to sleep, usually that's what I'll tell myself. I have to do this or my brain can't. You literally can't keep going. That's why sometimes in the morning, even if you're a morning person, you have better words, or you do first thing, is because it's fresh. And then Michael Hyatt talks about naps all the time. And he talked a little bit about naps, or it was a different one, but a nap can sort of reboot your brain quickly to get to that same place when you first wake up, which is why naps are healthy for you, and you shouldn't, be ashamed to go take 15, 20 minutes or whatever. Just lay down, because you can just kind of get yourself a reboot.
I was just going to say reboot would be a good word for those of us that are working with the computer all the time. Reboot it and all that. Cheryl Lynn talks about naps about 10, 20 minutes. And I think there's been some research that that's about a good length of time for a nap. If you oversleep, you might be too groggy and, but the value, and that's a relatively short time, power naps, right?
You think about people that are kind of get depressed too, and I mean, I don't know that I've ever been depressed, but gone through slight depression and wanting to sleep all the time, and that's sort of a signal to me that there's something going on. But I wonder if that's part of the science of that your brain just needs more fleshing out when you're not feeling mentally well, I wonder if that's why sleep is sort of the go-to.
Well, for people with mood disorders or any anxiety disorders, they need to make sure they get plenty of rest. That's one of the things that I would recommend to clients with mood disorders or anxiety disorders is to get adequate sleep and adequate nutrition. Your body, it's very important to take care of the vessel God has put his spirit in so that you're able to do what he asks you to do.
And this is our instrument for our work in a lot of ways, isn't it? And I really loved how you both have said that. We've had a few new people join us. I've got the poll covered up for the participants, so I can't see who's joined us. So we welcome that you're here, and that we're talking about self-care and writing during the holidays. And we do have a poll up. If you haven't voted, I think I'll keep it up for maybe a few more minutes. Do you plan to keep up your writing routine during the holidays? If you just vote yes or no, and I think it disappears after you vote. Is that true for those of you that voted?
I don't see it anymore.
Yeah, it disappears, and I could see as the host, I could see it. So I'll end the poll in just a few minutes and give you the exciting results and stuff, and we can talk a little bit about writing routines and stuff. I know, April, you did a lot of prep. Do you have something else on your list there that we haven't covered that you might want to share with us?
Sure. I found the article on Writer's Digest was very good, and it separated the two between body and mind and body. So the thing with my mind is the more in tune I feel in the morning with the spirit, and I listen throughout the day. It's like movie Up, and the dog is talking, and he has a voice box, and then he's talking, and all of a sudden he goes, squirrel. That's kind of how I feel. All the stuff God's putting in my head, and so I'm starting to feel guilty because I can't get to them all. But is there anybody else there that thinks in their mind that thank you God for all these new ideas, but I have X, Y, Z I have to do. But what I'm thinking too, that with your mind, for me, everybody, I'm going to circle back around to that. Everybody has a sinking period, and mine is about 3-4 o'clock during the day. And if you can decide your sinking period to do those things that don't need a lot of concentration. For me, that is, yes, if I can shut my eyes for a couple minutes, I will. But I'll do the dishes, I'll do the laundry, I'll just kind of scamper around slowly, mind you, but I get that stuff done. So to me, also, with my daughter around that time, she's on the bowling team. So I'm taking my computer to the bowling matches. And I'm sitting and connecting to the Wi-Fi, and all these little ideas that God has given to me.
Come down now.
I'm researching. I'm writing that query letter that...
Would you please come downstairs now?
I'll go back and edit sometime this query letter, or I'll start a different, like with Victoria the other day talking about Twitter. I got on my husband just walked in the door. I got on Twitter and got all the hashtags that, so now I have a Monday list, a Tuesday list, a Wednesday list, all that stuff that you don't have time to do or take the time to do, but it doesn't really require that much concentration. So I try and do that stuff when I'm in the thinking period. I try and look at all these new ideas that I've got going on in my head, for sure. So that was the mind that journaling, meditation increases your focus and clarity. Research, always check your target market for books that might have come out on that book that you've got going, or on the different articles that you think you might want to write. Or if you have a new blog idea, go and research and see if somebody else has a new take on it or something that you hadn't thought about, for sure. So Reading, we need to not forget about reading, to take that big book of Johnny's or Pat's, or one picture book of Jean's, and sit down for a few minutes and, cut the television off. And I always have a book in the car if I'm having to wait to pick my daughter up, for sure. Read. Reading is an escape, and, it helps me. But what the bad thing is that if I get really into that mystery that Pat is writing about, I'm going to stay up later than I should.
That's the downside.
That is true. Pastor will do that to you, yeah.
Yeah, so don't forget about your artist date that Julia Cameron gives. And I always like to think of, take one of my strange ideas that God's given me on artist date, and I just leave the computer and I'll go somewhere and think about that. My newest thing is on developing a program for young adults who are overweight. So I'm trying, that's just on my heart, to do that. So I do that on my artist date week. So that's real important to keep your artist date for your mind as well. So I want to get to the body, because I interviewed Pat, who's a friend of ours who is a fiction writer. And when she first started in 2008, she shared with me that she wrote 5 times a week, up to 12 hours a day, and she barely took any breaks.
Wow.
She's chronically, having issues now with her back, her neck, and her shoulders. And she constantly has to go between the physical therapist and the massage therapy, back and forth, back and forth. So, plan your writing in general to write 40 minutes and get up for 20 like she does. And no, she writes an hour and is up for 20. And you can buy foam rollers where you can roll your back. You can get a tennis ball and put it up against the wall and get that spot that's bothering you. When I was in seminary, I sat one night cramming, writing a paper with my leg tucked underneath my bottom. And I still have issues. After that, it was right around Christmas. How you have your paper due right there before you go on break. And so my Christmas was miserable. I was on muscle relaxers. It was awful. Wow. So you have to really, now Jessica realizes too that if at 40 minutes she's feeling her body, she's going to get up and cut that hour goal down to 40 and get up and walk around. And you just have to pay attention to your body for sure. With the yoga, I already talked about that. You can do it on the floor. You can do it on the floor. You can do it with a chair. I've heard so many times people, I can't do that. I can't get up off the floor. Well, okay. Well, I can show you some stretches to do with the back of your chair. So you want to think about, we talked about our instruments and overuse. For years, for years I've been teaching exercise, and I'll pick up the same size weight every class. And so now I'm varying it because I've gotten over sinus in my thumbs, of all things.
Oh, goodness.
That 5-pound weight 3 days a week for years, overuse tendonitis. So we have to think of those things as well.
Do you have a quick stretching technique you could show us for our hands or our wrists or anything, since we're all writers?
Oh, sure.
Just curious.
Sure. Okay.
Everybody watch.
All right. So
Watch and do.
if you have a Fitbit too, the newer ones have a relaxation mode. Have you tried that one, Johnny?
I got that on my thing.
Well, it's you push it and it helps guide your breathing for 2 minutes.
Oh no, I don't have that.
You can watch the visual with the heart getting big. You inhale as it goes small. You exhale.
Wow.
This for 2 minutes. And if I'm really stressed and know I need to go to sleep, I'll take that and do it. You can also track your sleep patterns. It's really been interesting to watch your sleep patterns on the Fitbit. My daughter has narcolepsy, so I have really learned a lot about that over the past few years. And it's she gets prescribed a nap every day at school. And if they don't, it's a disability. And, if they don't abide by that, the school can get in trouble. So she has to have a nap during school and one after school. And she will be with me, oh, I'm fine. And I'm like, Go. Go shut your eyes. And she can be asleep within 2 minutes in the dream cycle, in the REM cycle. So, real interesting to me. So if you track your sleep too, and if for some reason you feel tired that day, you can go back and see, oh, I was awake 56 minutes. The 5 hours I was asleep or whatever. So, okay, back to what you wanted. All right, so take your hands and pull them into your chest, elbows in at the ribs. And so you can close your eyes or get your breathing in and out your nose. And just press all the tips of your fingers together. Press them together. Now relax that. Now do it again. Press. And relax. Now you can roll inward like I'm connecting my index fingers, my pointer finger, and pull it around. Roll. You're rotating.
Oh, I like that.
I do. That feels good.
That's real good.
Another
And
direction.
everyone's doing that who's not not on the camera. You guys all need to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't let us make the only ones making fools of themselves. It's like
Right.
Say that. I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
I would suggest a small, let me go grab it, a small ball.
I'm going to be closing the poll in a minute. So if anybody hasn't voted yet, do you plan to keep up your writing routine for the holidays? Vote, minute and counting. I'm about ready to close it.
All right, so you can get a small stress type ball.
Yeah.
Okay. You can also take it and roll around the wrist part and
Oh.
put pressure on your forearms, like where the carpal tunnel would be. And then there's the bigger ball. Yeah, just a little tip. If you keep your elbows in at your ribs while you do this, you're going to work your chest muscles. But you can press the palm of your hands in and then your fingertips in. This is especially good. I work with a lot of senior citizens. But then you put it on the palm of your hand and like you're opening the jar.
Oh, wow.
Close the jar. So, and this is a good massage thing too. Put it behind you and massage your back.
That's great. Those are great tips. That feels good just to stretch.
Yeah. For your shoulders, I always give yourself a hug and take the opposite hand and massage that other shoulder. And I can just about reach that spot that gives me trouble.
Hmm?
The other arm on top, the other arm on top and massage that other shoulder.
Wow.
I think every woman needs to give herself a hug once in a while anyway.
That's right.
Tina,
Absolutely.
well, thank you. Thank you.
That's fun.
Get
And
to
it doesn't take that long, does it? I mean, it's not like you're spending an hour. You're just a few minutes is all you need.
No, and you can stretch your arms out on the back of a chair and do a modified down dog. That will put your elbows close to your ears, and you do a flat tabletop trying to get a 90 degrees. All right. So, and that will stretch, your upper back and your shoulders. That will stretch your shoulders. So you can do that up against a wall, up against a chair, the edge of a chair. I can, if you want me to, I can turn myself. Let me see if you guys can see me good.
This would be good ideas no matter what time of year, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
it's not just holidays.
Okay, what's she doing?
She's going to show us. She's going to do it on the table. See how she does it? She's pushing on the table.
Yeah.
On that. Thank you. Yay.
Just remember a flat back. Like you're going to try and hold a tray of china on your back. Is the
Oh,
visual.
wow.
And you push through
For
it.
Thanksgiving dinner.
All that fancy china that you never put out, right?
Well, thank you. Thank you, guys. And, so we've talked about the body and we've talked about the mind quite a bit. I want to really focus on the actual writing that we do. So I want to give the results of the poll on that we voted. I asked the question, and I'm thinking maybe I asked the question wrong. But anyway, I asked the question. So you got to, you know how that is to just say anything. You don't always, the person who writes the question doesn't always get. I thought it'd be a little bit we'd have a variety of answers, but we don't. Do you plan to keep up your writing routine during the holidays? Are you ready for the results? Da, 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 da. I think I could share them. Can you guys see them?
Oh, yeah.
100%
Oh
of you, 100% of you all said yes. And the reason why this surprises me so much is when I look coming into this last quarter, I changed my entire goals for this last quarter because I knew I could not keep up my writing routine and get everything done with so many speaking engagements coming up and certain things I wanted to get done. So I'm actually changing my writing routine. Now, I didn't ask that. Your writing routine you may still plan to write during the holidays. Is probably, I'm assuming that's how you answer that, which I do too. But I'm going to tell you, I'm taking the last 2 weeks of December off. I am not writing during the holidays, during the last 2 weeks. And that's a little different, but so I probably didn't explain what I meant by writing routine.
I kind of felt like I answered too quick because I said yes, but actually there will be days I'm not writing. Obviously. I'll be driving. I mean, I've got days when I'm going to be in the car all day, so because I'm traveling a lot during the holidays. So, but I think the way I took it really, just answering it really quick was I don't want to get behind in what I'm doing though either, and I want to make sure that I just don't totally neglect writing altogether, which I've done in the past, and then it's hard to get back into
that's a good point. Very good point. And the thing I'm hearing Tina and April share so much of is to think ahead now and pre-plan some of this. What is your intention? We're not going to get everything done over the holidays. That's the reality, whether it's the self-care or the cooking or the as April said, the HGTV and Pinterest perfect thing. That's not going to happen. And so what realistically can you get done in the next 8 weeks for now and the end of the year? Something to think about and listen to your body as you do it,
Right.
On that way, create some sort of plan of action, which you will do on that and stuff. Anything else on actual writing? Johnny, did you think of any other tip that you wanted to share?
On actual writing? Well, I would think make your goals. I mean, you hear this all the time, but make your goals realistic. Like right now I'm really trying to do, I'm revising and I've got a deadline coming up. So to get that done and knowing the days that I can do it and the days I can't because of conference and driving and all that kind of stuff. It was like 4,000 words a day I had to do, but like yesterday I did a lot and it was going very quickly and I did several chapters. Well, now I'm down to the days I have left targeted to do it. I only need to do like 2,000 words a day. I mean, it was really, really kind of nice to be there. So I'm really hoping, I'm going to be done before the deadline. But then I want to do going from there and starting a new project, 1,000 words a day. And some days that's just, sometimes 1,000 words comes quick and some days it doesn't. So I've also got a time limit. Like if I don't get the 1,000 words in like 3 or 4 hours, that's it. I'm not, you just keep doing it.
You're not a slave to that goal, it sounds like.
And it's 5 days a week, so it's not every single day either. So like Saturday might be a catch-up day if I don't have quite 5,000 words. But I think just being realistic and knowing what you need to do. Fortunately, my last contract is this November 13th, and then I'll have edits into December for it. But that's the only have-to thing I do. And then I'm starting projects that are more, I might be indie publishing, and it's more that. So there's not that publisher's deadline.
Yeah.
I think just doing what you have to do and making sure you can do it by saying how many realistic days you have left, and then what you have to do each of those realistic days to make sure it gets done. That's what I guess would be nice.
That's that pre-planning. And something we haven't said as writers is that the holidays are a rich time to collect ideas. I love, like April said, about using your deep time versus your shallow time. What did you call it? Sinking time, I think you called it.
Sinking time. Yeah.
Sinking time. And you think about it when we have company in the house or kids home from college or kids home from school or whatever, that is kind of we may not be able to get that deep work done. So if you listen to conversations, you could get dialogue ideas, you could get ideas, you could think, next year I want to write an article about this ahead of time. How do I write with my kids in the house? And said, Rachel, you can write that, because that was Rachel's question, and all that. You might get travel article ideas, because it's a time to travel, so use those times to collect as a writer, gather those ideas and stuff.
Yay.
Listen for the questions that come up. Here we're talking about this. There could be a question. I'm just thinking, because we talked about, April shared with us the exercises, and Jeremy commented that would be a good, where was I was going to go back up here. Jeremy commented that we could do yoga at a writer's workshop type thing. That is an example of an idea or a question. Listen for those. I think holidays can be a great time for future ideas. And so you still feel like as a writer, you're getting something done.
Yeah.
You have to fill your pitcher so you can have something to pour out. My English teacher, I had the most wonderful English teacher in high school. She used to have like a jar of glitter, and she called it pixie dust. So when we would have a hard time writing, she would sprinkle a little pixie dust. And a pinch in your pocket and a pinch for your head. So what you just said gave me an idea, because you could be filling yourself and drinking in inspiration during the holidays, and you could be sticking these in. I think I'm going to make my own little pixie dust jar of little ideas, and it'll give you a chance to write on days you're not writing, because you're just jotting down journal ideas. But I like, rather than keeping them in a journal, to put them in my little pixie dust.
I love
that.
That is great. What would be a neat thing to hand those out in a workshop too, little jars or something?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Oh, you just think of it's like a workshop on gathering ideas or something.
I think we have somebody on here that does workshops and conferences.
I don't know. We'll just have to, in all her schedule, we'll add that.
Yeah.
Not this week, probably. Maybe
Something else to
Probably
do.
not.
Future. But along that idea, not just ideas, is I like listening to phrases. It might be a phrase in one of the hymns that we sing in candlelight service on Christmas Eve. I'll just throw that out. That you think, oh, that says it. I want to do something with that, and that's the article that you have for next year, or that's in your Advent devotions. I want to write some more Advent devotions. That ends up being the base or the theme for the whole book. It's a great pixie dust. I love it.
I love that too, Tina. That's gold. It really is.
Yeah, and that is good. And Cheryl Lynn was saying about texting ideas to the self. Texie dust is what she got.
Oh, I just saw that.
Yeah, I love it. But I'll text and email stuff to me in the middle of the night sometimes, and then I find it the next morning. I think, what was this? Who sent me this at 2 a.m? Oh, it's me. I don't even remember it on that way. Bethany, I know you homeschooled last year, and Rachel really had a question about writing with kids at home. So I really wanted you to share some of your experiences, some tips on that might not just help Rachel, but might help anybody listening. What do you got?
All right, so I have 4, and then one of them I already said, which was suggest an activity for people to do that you don't want to do. But my first one was distract the kids. And so I think you can, depending on where you live, it's going to, I'm in Florida, so it's always hot. But if you can do playtime, or whatever their playtime is, that's your writing time. So it's like they don't need you, they don't want you. You can go do this. If you're going to be baking that day too, incorporate them in the baking, and then when they're playing outside, then you do your writing. So you're writing when they're doing something they don't need you for. My boys don't need me to, and they like it, but you know what I'm saying. So, and then number 2, this is especially if you're traveling and you're not at your own house, you're not in charge of, you're not the matriarch or patriarch of the events, then recruit a partner to run interference. So that's usually my husband. I'll tell him I have to do these things. I need, at some point we need a code word. I have to duck out. And so usually he'll, let's go play a card game or, whatever. And then I can go do that. So that's kind of how we have worked it out. But if someone knows that you have to do that stuff, it's not a surprise then when you're leaving and then they're mad at you because you're not participating, because they already kind of know.
Do you tell them a certain time period, I need 20 minutes or I need 30 minutes to finish this up, or you just say, I've got to go get this project done, and you leave it kind of wide open?
I think it depends. Like what I try to do is the sandwich method when you need to criticize.
Yeah.
Which is what it is. Let's be real. You're criticizing. There's something good, the thing, and then something good. So I try to do that. That's usually how I say it. I'm like, okay, we're going to go and I'm going to spend time with your family. I have to go do this at this time or whatever, but then I will come out and I will do this. So I will be present, gone, and then I will be present, like with you. And so that kind of helps to work saying it like that, because then they don't feel like you're just trying to get away.
That would work with husbands too. Not just kids.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing is, if you talk about, looks like if I tell Justin beforehand, then when his family wants to know, like, why is Bethany out, then he is the one who can be like, oh no, like she's doing this, like you have someone taking up for you. You're not just always gone. And then my fourth one, because the third one was suggest something you don't want to do, was don't multitask the micro. And so I've been listening to a lot of Gary Vee. He talks about macro and micro, which is always a contradiction. So the macro, so the macro would be the big things like baking. That's something you have to do. Your kids can help you. Your family can help you. You can multitask while you're cooking, because you can be doing your social media on your phone while you're waiting for the pot to boil or whatever. That's like a big thing. The micro, this is what I've been doing this week for my Live Brilliant challenge. It's changed everything. So the micro is like, we have this conference on Thursday. I have specific things I have to do. But what I normally do is I've got 500 tabs open on Safari, and I'm doing like the writer shut thing. I'm doing this. I've got 5 different work projects happening and nothing gets done. And I'm always like, oh, I'm never finished. So this week I've been doing like one task at a time. Like, okay, the small things. I'm going to get the writer chat updated. I'm going to get the schedules for all the faculty printed right now, and then I'm going to do this. And it's so much better. Like I actually have things crossed off my list, and I don't feel stressed because things are getting done. And so I consider that as a micro.
Single tasking, not multitasking.
Yeah. So multitask the big, don't multitask the small.
Got it.
Interesting.
And that's sort of the deep work and shallow work too. That works the same way. When I'm concentrating and doing deep work, I do one thing at a time. When I'm tired, what did you call it again, April? You had a name for the shallow time. I call it shallow time. Sinking time. You can probably multitask. You're at your daughter's gym at the same time you're doing this, and the same time you're doing this other thing. So it's been great advice today, you guys. I don't know. I'm kind of keyed up trying to, I really want to look at the holidays one more time. And except we've got about 4 minutes left. I don't know if anybody wants to pop in or put a question in the chat or unmute yourself or pop in and ask any questions or add something. Did we not cover something or made you think of something new? You're welcome to come on camera and add something or comments.
Thank you, ladies. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you, ladies.
Yeah, this
a lot
was
of help.
Yeah.
Well, I think
while people are popping back in, next week on Writers Chat, we don't really have a title for this yet, so we've got to figure that out. But our guest will be Tina Yeager. Tina's going to come back. And if you were here last week, she made a really interesting comment about when we were talking about creativity and left brain, right brain stuff and how important that is. And so I thought, you know what, this would be a great topic altogether. So we're going to be talking about creativity. We're going to be talking more about mental
Brain health.
Creativity
and brain health. How's that?
Oh, I like that.
There we go. So that'll be it. So make sure you come back for that, because it will just be wonderful. And especially as we're going again into the holidays, and this is kind of if you're not wanting to write on your laptop. I mean, everybody's correct. It's a great time to just be thinking creative thoughts and feeling that well. So how can we do that? So anyway, Tina's going to be our guest. I'm really excited about having her next week.
I am too, because the brain is part of our instrument, as we were saying for this. So, and the whole area of the right brain, left brain is fascinating.
And I'm sorry, it's not next week. It'll be 2 weeks because of next week. Actually,
that's right.
Next week we're going to be talking about OCWC because we will just. I'm sorry, Tina. I think I even gave you the wrong date, maybe.
2 weeks.
Okay.
Yes, the 14th. Is that correct? You're going to be here with us on the 14th. On the 7th, we're going to be recapping the Ohio Christian Writers Conference.
Okay.
And those of you that are there, we hope you come in and share like something that you learned or something that, wow, I hadn't thought about this. I hope some wows.
Yeah, we hope wow.
We hope wows.
Good wows.
What are you going to do with it? Because, that's it. We go to these writers' conference a lot of times, and then we come home with all these ideas, and sometimes they stay in notebooks,
Yeah.
So, on that. So, but Jan, I hope you can come next year too. But Jan, we will share excitement with you. We promise.
Yeah. And the highlights, things we learned.
Tips and stuff like that. So we're excited on that. And Sophia and Rachel, we're glad you were with us today too. That's great. And
thank you.
I think what I'll do is I'll stop the recording, but I want to officially thank Tina and April for joining us today. This was great. I appreciate the time, the research that you did, and the tips you shared, and the exercises even that you let us in. That makes me. I don't have one of those like bowls, and I think some of that stuff you were doing with the bowls. I think I'm going to add that to my office.
I know my shopping list. I want those.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I would like that. And a lot of ideas, and the holidays, they come around every year. I think with a little pre-planning, we can make them sense. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Those of you that are here, stay on. We'll have a quick after party, and I hope everybody will join us next week for next week's Writers Chat, where we'll talk about after the Ohio Christian Writers Conference and share some enthusiasm and gems that we learned there. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the replay.